Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening. There is information in the chat. I invite you to join that live Nearpod lesson with us so that you can participate in our learning this afternoon or this evening, wherever you might be. There's also information on that shared screen that allows you to join the lesson as well. Looks like I've already got a few people who have joined the lesson, so excited for that. Welcome. When you join the lesson, it will drop you into a game that you can play. We are still about 10 minutes before the top of the hour, and so we will get started here very shortly. Once again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. As you are coming in, you will see that there's information on the shared screen. There is also information in the chat for you to join our live Nearpod lesson. We invite you to join that lesson. You can do so by using a second screen, another device, split your screen, however that works for you. You're also welcome to just sit and watch. Just know that there will be things on the screen that you might want to click on. So you will need to be in that live Nearpod lesson. We are about 7 minutes till the top of the hour. We will get started at the top of the hour. We had large registration numbers today, so we want to make sure that we start on time, but we also want to make sure that we give everyone the opportunity to join. So it will be, we will start in just a few minutes. If you have not already joined that lesson, looks like I've got about 15 people who've joined the lesson. I've got a lot more than that who are on the call. So I encourage you to join that live Nearpod lesson. You'll go to another tab or another screen, even another device. You can go to join.nearpod.com and you will use the code that you see on the screen, or you can use the link that you see in the chat box. I did not turn on my captions, so let me do that now. Apologize for that. There we go. Okay, let me give those instructions one more time. We do have people who are actively coming in to the session, so welcome everyone. So glad that you are here. There is a link and some instructions in the chat for you to join that live Nearpod lesson with us. There's also some information on that shared screen. To join that live lesson, you are going to want to open up another tab or another window, maybe grab another device if you have one. Go to join.nearpod.com and you'll use the code that you see on the screen and in the chat. Once you get in the lesson, it will drop you into a game. This is just a fun game to get to know me while we're waiting for everyone to get in. We are about 6 minutes before the top of the hour, so we will begin promptly at the top of the hour. Let's see. So I am joined by several colleagues this evening who are going to be helping me out with the chat and with the questions. So welcome Gina and Bridget. Hope that you guys can both see everything. Bridget, if you'll let me know, I changed your settings, so you should be able to see everything at this point.
Yes, we are good to go now. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Glad to have you. Appreciate you being here.
Excited
All good
to be
here as well.
All right, yay. So again, for instructions, if you've been here for a moment, you've already heard these instructions. But for those of you that are actively coming into the session, welcome. We are so glad you are here. I would encourage you, if you have not already done so, to go ahead and join that live Nearpod lesson. You can open up a second tab, second window, grab another device, however it works for you. And you're going to go to join.nearpod.com and put in that code that you see on the screen, 878ZCMN. There's also a link in the chat, and I will put that in there one more time because I don't know if you can scroll up and see it or not. So we'll put that in there one more time. There's also a link in the chat. You can just click on that link and go straight there. Either way works for me. I've only got about half of the participants who have joined the live lesson. So just kind of be aware that you are certainly welcome to sit and watch. However, if there are things that you want to click, you are not going to be able to do that on the webinar window. You can only do that on the actual live Nearpod lesson. And so you'll definitely want to join that. We are about 3 minutes before the top of the hour, so we will get started here shortly. We still have people coming in. We did have a large group who registered, so we want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to get into that Nearpod lesson. I'm joined by some other colleagues, so welcome, Tracy. Glad you are here. Thank you for your help. They will be working the chat. They will be answering questions in the question box. So if you have questions, pop those in there, and my colleagues will be answering those questions just as quickly as they can. All right. Give those instructions one more time. We're about 2 minutes before our start time, but we do have people who are coming in, so welcome everyone. Glad that you are here. If you have not already done so, I encourage you to join that live Nearpod lesson in addition to the webinar. You are going to want to be able to see both. So that might mean split screen, second tab, second window, different device, however that works for you. So you're going to go to join.nearpod.com. You're going to use the code that you see on the screen, 8ZCMN. You can also find the link in the chat, and you can just simply click on that link and it will take you directly to that lesson. If you would prefer to not join the live lesson, you just want to watch and listen and learn, you are welcome to do that as well. There will be times when you may have the opportunity to click on something that won't be available if you are just looking at the webinar window. So just be aware of that. Again, not a problem. I will be showing everything on my screen, but it makes it a little bit more fun if you are in that live lesson. All right, we're going to give it about another minute. Oh, you're right. Thank you, Tracy. I forgot to mention that when you get into the lesson, it will drop you into a game. So you can play that matching pairs game, and it's just a fun way to get to know me, kind of put some information behind the person who's talking to you this evening. All right. So we are at the top of the hour, so I am going to go ahead and get started because I do know that everybody's super busy. We want to honor your time commitment for this evening. I'm going to turn off my camera because it does take up a lot of real estate on your screen, and that's not necessary. So I am going to turn off my camera, and so we can have a little bit more space for you to see and that sort of thing. If you have not joined the lesson, go ahead and join that lesson. There's information into the chat for you, but we are going to go ahead and get started. So it looks like we're kind of settling in at a number. We have a few people still coming in, so I'll give it about another minute. Looks like we've had quite a few people join that live lesson, so thank you very much. So glad to have you in the lesson with me. I am going to move some things off my screen so that it is a little bit easier for you to see that live lesson. If you have not joined that lesson, I want to make that as easy as possible for you. So I'm going to close a couple of windows on my screen so that we can have as much space as possible. Welcome, everyone. So glad you are here. There's information in the chat for you on how to join the live lesson. If you did not join the lesson and you want to join after a few minutes, you decide you want to go ahead and try it, that link will be in the chat, and this code will always be up here in the top center of my screen. So you can always get back in there if you need to, or if you want to open it on a different device or something, that's fine as well. So welcome, everyone. You did have an opportunity to play the matching pairs game, hopefully. And so it was just a quick way to sort of get to know me. We are here this evening. We are looking at test prep with Nearpod, and we want to talk about the fact that this is a process. This is not going to be just a single event that you're going to do with your students. As we get started, let me formally introduce myself. My name is Julie Cobb. I am one of the managers for the professional services team at Nearpod. I have been with Nearpod about 4 years, and I was an educator. I'm still an educator. I was an educator in public school for about 26 years. So I'm excited to get to be here this evening to kind of talk about something that, quite frankly, can be quite stressful. And so we want to look at how can we manage this test prep type of experience, and how can we help it become a little bit less stressful for you. Our learning agenda for this afternoon or this evening, depending on where you are located, is we're going to look at how you can access those pre-made standards aligned resources to really continue with that skill instruction and that skill practice. We're also going to look at the content that students need when they take those standardized assessments and the technology comfort that they need. So that's going to be kind of the bulk of our learning this evening. And then we're also going to look at how do you design lessons to embed that test prep as you go. And so those are our learning pieces for this afternoon or this evening. I do want to remind you that you do have the opportunity, if you are in the lesson, to take notes. You do not have to do this, but it is a way for you to receive the resources that I'm going to share this evening. You will receive a follow-up email. It will include a recording, so you'll have all this, but just want you to be aware that you can do this. Very quickly, on your screen with the live Nearpod lesson, in the top right corner, you have a little bump out. It has a little piece of paper and a pencil. When you click on that, you can choose where you want your notes to go, whether it's your email, your Google Drive, or your OneDrive. Once you choose one of those 3 things, then what will happen is when I close the session today, not right now, but when I close the lesson, you're going to receive an editable version, a document that has all the slides, all the links, all the resources that I'm going to share. Again, if you don't choose to do that, that's fine. We will be sharing this as a follow-up. So let's start with a little activity here. This is our drag and drop. And my question to you is look at some of those common test prep activities that are listed on the left. And I want you to grab one of those and drag it over underneath the category where you think it belongs. Is that common practice have a positive effect on assessment results? Does it really not have an effect at all? It could go either way. Or does it have a negative effect on assessment results? So for example, one of the things that always happened in my schools was we had a test day t-shirt. Well, I don't know that it was positive. I don't think it was negative. It probably didn't affect the results one way or the other. So I'm going to put that there. So go ahead, see what you think about these. I am going to kind of monitor this on my side from the teacher standpoint, and let's see What you think? Looks like we've got some answers coming in. I do apologize for the delay on my screen. I may be having some slow internet. Hopefully, there it goes. It will come on in. Let's see how we're doing. All right, looks like we've got quite a few people who are responding, and we all have different responses. None of these things are inherently good or bad, but we're just kind of thinking about what are some of the things that we do that maybe are not having the impact that we hope, or maybe they're having a negative impact on our student learning. Give you about another 30 seconds to kind of look at these. Oh yes, prizes for good scores, absolutely. High stress environment, it really can be. If somebody's wandering around wringing their hands all day long, that's probably not going to have a positive effect. A calm environment, however, probably will have a positive effect. Thank you, Amy. New device on the test day. Oh my goodness, yes. I have seen that happen. Oh, by the way, we're going to use this one instead of the one that you guys have been using. Yeah, that is always a little bit challenging. See if we can get some of these others to load. I appreciate everybody participating. Thank you for that. So even if you're not completely done, go ahead and hit that submit button for me. And let's go ahead and move on. So these are some of the common things that we see and that schools and districts do in order to prepare for the standardized tests. When you are thinking about this, if you Google test prep, those are some of the same things that you're going to find there. Have a positive attitude. Prep the pep rally. Have a pep rally to get everybody super excited about the assessment. Get a good night's sleep. I will totally agree with that one. We don't need students who are tired. Eat a good breakfast. Practice those tests ahead of time. Drill those exercises. Practice those skills over and over and over and over and over. So these are types of things that Google will tell you are test prep, and these are things that we do. But we can all agree that some of these have more effect than others. But one of the things that you see on, or a lot of the things that you see on here, as the teacher in the classroom, we don't have a lot of control over. We don't have a lot of control over the attitude that students come in with. We have control over ours. We don't have a lot of control over them getting a good night's sleep or having students that are, making sure that they eat a good breakfast unless we provide it at school. So let's think about what we can actually control as far as the prep that we do for students or that we help students with. And when we think about this, there are really two areas that are in our control on a pretty regular basis. The first one is the skills that are taught and that are monitored in the classroom. That's skill proficiency. We have control over what we teach and how often we practice and how we monitor whether or not students are learning that. The other thing that we can control most often, not always, but most of the time, are the tools that are used as part of the instruction. in the classroom. So you know, as an educator, what tools you have access to on a regular basis, whether you have the one-to-one devices or whether you have borrowing a cart or however that works. These are the two things that we really can focus on to provide some help in prepping for this test. And these are the things that we can do on an ongoing basis: skill proficiency and tech proficiency. So we're going to take these in two parts today. We're going to start with the skill proficiency. Skill proficiency is the content and the skills that students have to know in order to do well on the standardized test. And so what are some ways that Nearpod can support on a daily basis understanding and building those skills? Well, we have the lessons from the library. So in that Nearpod library, there's about 22,000 different lessons that you can access, different activities, ways for students to practice. You have lessons that you create. You know your students best. So when you create a lesson, it gives them the opportunity to practice. There are activities that can be used for practice, for review, for enrichment. Doesn't have to be a full lesson. Perhaps it's just that single activity. You can have students actively participate in the learning. When they are actively doing something, then they are going to, more often than not, remember that skill. And then finally, Nearpod can really help with the formative assessment, because we really want to know before the test what students know and how we can help them if they don't know it. So let's think about, how do we find the lessons and the resources to use? So clearly the fastest and easiest way is to use the things that are already built into Nearpod. You can certainly make your own. We have other webinars if you are not familiar with creating your own assignments or your own activities. We have other webinars for that, but let's look very quickly at, how do you find a lesson or an activity that you can already use? Now, for those of you that might need a little extra support later on, I do have a how-to, if you will, that's built in. And so you're welcome to scroll through that and look at it. And if you're taking notes, that will be in your notes. But I'm going to walk you very quickly through my Nearpod account, and we're just going to talk about how to find lessons fairly quickly. When you open your own account, whether it is a free account or whether you have a school or district license, you're going to have access to what we call the Nearpod library. It's always going to be in that navigation panel on the left-hand side. So when you click on Nearpod library, you have access to a variety of ways in which to find lessons. We always have our featured lessons depending on kind of what's going on for that particular time of year. You can also search by grade or by subject. You can search by content type. So there's your activities, where you might find just single activities for students to practice. You can also search by publisher. So there might be a publisher that you particularly like. So CK12 for science, or you might be very interested in Freckle for math, or Learning Blocks for math and ELA. So if there's a particular publisher that you like, you can search that way. So I'm going to go, I'm going to search, let's see, I'm going to search CK12. Where'd my CK12 go? There it is. So when I search CK12, it brings up all of my lessons. I can preview one of those lessons. And if I like that lesson, I can simply add it to my lessons. And then if I want to use it later on, I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you just a few minutes to look through the library, if you've not had a chance to do that, and kind of see what you find and what you notice and what you might be interested in using with your students to really help build those skills and that content that they are going to need. So I clicked add to my lessons. There it is. So I'm going to give you just about, let's say about 3 minutes. Not a whole long time. We don't have a lot of time today, but I'm going to set my timer so that I don't rush you. So I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes and let you have a look around in the Nearpod library. If you do not have an account yet, you are certainly welcome to go to nearpod.com and create an account. If you want to open up another tab and just look around, or if you want to just stay in the Nearpod lesson, you can look through that how-to, which will give you the same steps that I just showed you. You can also search by standard, you can search by subject, you can search by grade, however that works for you. So I'm going to kind of walk through that on my screen while you're practicing. I'm going to search by standard this time. Let's see, we'll go with Arkansas, that's where I'm located. Math, let's do language arts. 4th grade, particular strand, I like details, and there we go. Once you add it, it's going to be in your lessons, and then you can launch it or edit it. Got about another minute to look around. If you get stuck, pop questions into that question section. Bridget and Erica and Gina and Tracy, they're all working in there to answer those questions. So take that final look around and then come back to the Nearpod lesson with me. I've added a collaborate board, and I would love to know what is a resource that you found that you think you might use next week with your students. Is it a resource that you're going to introduce a new skill, or you're going to review a skill, or you're going to do some enrichment opportunities? Share with us on that collaborate board. What are some of the things that you found in your search? There's my timer. Oh, iCivics, yes. Reviewing two-step equations, fabulous. Looks like several of you found some videos, wonderful. We're going to do some time to climb for math. Love time to climb. Biweekly standards in poetry and nonfiction, nice. Allison, I agree. I love that you can search by publisher. I'm picky about what lessons I copy. Yes, ma'am. You will know that all of our lessons are we either work with a publisher as a partner, or they are built in-house by our amazing content team. So you're not going to find random lessons from random people in our library. So just, you can be confident in knowing that you can use any of those lessons. But we all do have favorite publishers for sure. Oh, found a Nearpod lesson over the ChatGPT. Yes, that's a hot topic right now. And as educators, it's something we're going to have to kind of wrestle with and decide how we're going to approach that. EL content component, have a high EL population. Thank you, Natasha. Appreciate that. Erica, who's one of my colleagues who's on the line, has some really great EL ideas and that sort of thing. So we do have a couple of other webinars every once in a while with that. So it's something to keep in mind. Search by standards. You didn't know that. Great, Paula. Glad you found that out. Still need to look around for poetry. Yes, I realized I did not give you very much time, but that's okay. Katrina, I'm an admin, and every Thursday we have PDs. I saw quite a few resources to share with your teachers. Wonderful. Thank you. Drag and drop. Literacy genre stations. Didn't know there was a VR option. Fabulous. Oh, look, found some images. Hannah, thank you for putting your comment as an audio option. Appreciate it when everybody tries out some buttons. Love the games. This will be used on PD session on Monday. Good for you, Lisa. If there's anything we can help you with, let us know. Making my own analyzing elements. Nice. PLC, fabulous. So it looks to me like everybody has found something that they can use next week, whether that's with their students or with your teachers or with your colleagues. So thank you so much for all of your responses. This is great. So this is sort of the content side of things. But we want to make sure before we move to the tech side of things is that we think about also, even though we provide students with these resources, how do we know if they learned it? And so one of the things that we want to make sure to remind everybody is that you can use the data that you get in the lesson and use the data that you get in the post-session reports. So don't forget that that is there, because we want to know, did our students understand, or do we need to go back and try again? Do they need additional practice? And so I'm going to show you very quickly where to find those pieces of data before we move to the next piece. In your Nearpod account, in that left-hand navigation panel, once again, you do have that section that says reports. And so those reports are going to be there. It's there for every single lesson that you do, even if it's just a single activity. The lesson is there so that you can go back, you can look at how did students do on the learning, and kind of give you some information on what to do next. If you have not explored the reports, I encourage you to explore those, kind of see what all is there. There is a new button, if you haven't seen it yet, that allows you to sort students by last name. Yes, teachers, we heard it. So you can sort students by last name. I'm going to go ahead and move on. It's going to take it a second to pull the report with this particular lesson because we do have quite a few people. So, but just know that that's there. And so you definitely want to take some time to explore that. But I want to move on to the second half of this. So we know about the content proficiency and the skill proficiency, but let's take a minute and think about the tech proficiency. What do students need to know about the technology that they are using on that standardized assessment? Very few assessments anymore are on paper and pencil, even for the youngest of students. And so students need to have skills like keyboarding skills, using a trackpad or a mouse, multiple step with a scroll bar, finding that second scroll bar inside the screen, using a timer, working against a timer, and using those digital tools that they're going to find on that toolbar. All of these things are things that students need to know how to do. We don't want these to get in the way of students showing what they know related to skills and content. But how do you do this? I mean, I don't have time to stop and teach keyboarding skills every day or teach mouse skills. I don't even know how to do that. Well, the way to do this is to just embed it in what you do. And that's where Nearpod can help you. So over the next couple of slides, I'm going to give you an example of a different type of activity and how that activity supports one or more of these tech skills. So for example, we're going to look at open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are great for supporting the practice with keyboarding because it requires them to answer using those keyboarding skills. It's also really good for helping them remember how to find the scroll bar. So down here, you can click on the word here, and it's going to say, let's go. And it's going to take you to a student-paced lesson. For those of you that are not in the lesson, no worries, I will show it on my screen. But if you want to join the lesson, it's certainly not too late to do that. So this one, it knows me because I've been in here before. It may ask you to sign in. You can always sign in as a guest. That's not a problem. So let's think about, what does a multi-step open-ended question look like? When you build an open-ended question, you do have a rich text editor. And so that allows you to do part 1 and part 2, because we oftentimes know that students don't necessarily look at all the parts. Now, if a student has a smaller screen, I'm going to make my screen a little bit smaller. If a student has a smaller screen, you'll notice that they don't see the whole question. And so oftentimes students just simply don't scroll down because they don't realize there's a second scroll bar. They have the scroll bar over here, but they need to realize that there is a second scroll bar where the instructions are. And so when you build your lessons, if you build several parts, if you add reference media, then they get the opportunity to practice those same types of questions, but it's part of their everyday learning. And so it becomes habit for them to read the passage and answer part 1 and answer part 2 using those keyboarding skills. Now, I'm going to show you really quickly how to build one of these. So if you are fairly new to Nearpod, I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to go back into my lessons. I am going to start a new lesson. I'm going to click create and click on lesson. And I'm going to add an open-ended question. So you find it under discussions and you click open-ended and add. And there's my box for all of my instructions. I have my rich text editor. I can change the font. I can change the size. Excuse me, I can change the size. I can change the formatting. Is it bold? Do I want to change the color? Do I want to put numbers or bullet points or however? I can even add math equations. So there is that Nearpod equation editor. So you can add those mathematical things and put those in your questions as well. You can also add that reference media. So you'll notice on my question, I had something for you to read before you respond. I don't know about your students, but my students had a tendency to skip the read part and went straight to the respond part. Get them in the habit of always clicking on something to read or to look at a chart, a map, something like that. So read and respond. Once you have finished creating your question, you can click save and it will put it in whatever lesson you are building. So there's open-ended questions. So let's move on to drag and drop. So drag and drop is going to allow us to help students use those trackpad or mouse skills. It's also going to help practice using that digital toolbar. How do you find the right tool in the toolbar, and how do you switch tools? Again, this is something we want our students to be super comfortable with so that they don't get stuck on that part on the standardized test. So I have another sample for you. We're going to click here. And I will give you all of these sample lessons at the end as well. So, all right, so I'm going to go to another lesson here. Again, it knows who I am, but you're going to need to just join as a guest. So this is a drag and drop. There are instructions at the top. You'll notice that we've used that rich text editor once again. We've highlighted part of the instructions, so that really helps students really kind of hone in on those particular instructions. Once there's also reference media, students can click on that reference media. They can move those instructions up out of the way. Part of those tech skills, those mouse pad skills or mouse skills or trackpad skills, excuse me, are clicking and dragging. Students sometimes struggle with that click and drag. And so helping them get practice with that, especially if they have to put it in a very specific place on the screen. We want them to be very precise with their drag and their drop. And then using the tools, because part of the instructions said to highlight or circle, they have a toolbar at the bottom, and this is going to look very similar to most toolbars that they're going to see in other platforms. And so there is a crayon or a pen. There is also a highlighter. So they can click on it and choose, and then they can highlight or circle whatever they need to do. Now, this is where we want to help students. So how do I get rid of the highlighter? I click on the arrow, and now I can go back to dragging. This one also includes students have the opportunity to add a text box. If they need to add their own response, they can add their text box. There we go. And for math teachers, you click on that advanced. There is also the math equation editor here as well for students and for you. So while you're playing with that a minute, I am going to go and I'm going to show you how to find some of these and how to add them to your lessons. Now, I do need to point out that drag and drop is part of school and district accounts. It is not part of the free account. This is the only activity that I'm going to show you today that is not part of a free account. So if you do have a free one, drag and drop will not be available for you to create or edit. There will be some for you to use if they are already embedded in a lesson. You can use those with your students. You just can't create or edit your own. So I'm going to go into my account once again. I'm back in that lesson where I was adding things earlier. I'm going to click Add Content and Activities. Drag and drop is under Quizzes and Games. So I click on Drag and Drop and Add to my lesson. I can create my own. I can add images or I can add text that I want students to drag. I can add background to this if I would like. I can just add any background or upload an image. I can also use all of those tools, the same tools that students have as part of my background. But I also have available some things that are pre-made. And so I can find one that is pre-made. I can do a little filter here. I want to filter, let's filter some technology here. And we're going to go 4th grade. Let's look at device free, see what this is. So there's my one that is pre-made. This one has the great scroll bar activity. Students have to scroll within those instructions, so it's great practice for that. There's also multimedia here, reference media here. And then everything is prepared for the student. I click save, and that's in my lesson. So we've done a little bit with keyboarding. We've done a little bit with multi-part scroll. We've seen that in a couple of different areas, and that's something that we're going to want to see over and over and over so that students are very comfortable with it. We're practicing those trackpad skills and those mouse skills. Even older students sometimes have some difficulty with being very precise with using the mouse. And next, we are going to look at Draw It. What are some ways that we can use Draw It as part of those technology enhanced items? So I'm going to go ahead and click to Draw It. Draw It for me is a great example of not only using the digital toolbar, but also using the respond and explain. One of the things that my students really struggled with was they would answer the question. This came up a lot on math questions. So they would answer the question, but they would skip the part about explain how you got the answer. And so Draw It gives us a great opportunity to practice that format. Here's the question. Here, I want you to answer and explain, respond and explain. So I'm going to click on this one. I'll let you click on yours as well. So this particular lesson has several Draw It activities. This one also has a quiz in it. Now the quiz does not allow for the respond and explain. It is simply multiple choice. However, they're going to see a bunch of those. And so, you know, working through a quiz, making sure that you know how to read through those questions, how to read through the responses can also be very helpful. But in this question, this is what you are going to see. So you have the opportunity with those toolbars at the bottom where students can select the tool and they can go ahead and use it to answer the question. They can also select a text box. So this is where they can type their response or their explanation if they choose to. Now, I have a little secret I'm gonna let you in on. These toolbars don't look like they looked in drag and drop. There's just not as many of them as there was in the drag and drop activity a moment ago. And so within the next couple of weeks, keep an eye on your account because we are going to be rolling out new toolbars for the Draw It, and it will have everything that you have in drag and drop. So if you don't remember, let me show you really quick. In drag and drop, students have all of these tools, the text box, the rich text editor in the text box, that advanced with math, that equation editor. They can add images and video. They can add a GIF. They can undo, all this kind of good stuff. So this is coming to Draw It. So this is something that teachers have been asking for, that we have been working on. We're rolling it out a little bit at a time just to make sure everything works really, really well. So keep an eye on your account over the next couple of weeks. You may just pop in one day and have some fabulous new tools for your students. But whatever the toolbar looks like, having the opportunity to show their work and show their steps is great practice. So I'm gonna give you a moment to kind of practice that, and then I will show you how to create one.
No.
So the formatting, or the way that you create a Draw It is very similar to the way you create everything. You start with the same process. So you're going to add content and activities. It is under quizzes and games. There's my Draw It right there. Click on Draw It. Click on Add. As the teacher, I can upload a background. So if I want to upload an image, I can upload an image that students might draw on. I can leave it blank and students can just have a blank canvas to work from. This is also going to look slightly different over the next couple of weeks. It's going to have that same rich text editor that you saw in the open-ended question and the drag and drop. So you'll notice right now that's not there, but couple of weeks, you're going to notice that it is there so that you can do those multi-step questions. You can put in the highlighted piece of the directions. You will have the same add reference media, so you have that read this, respond here, explain how you got there. All of that information will be available for you. If you don't want to make your own, then just like with drag and drop, you have some options over here to the right. Again, you can filter. So if I wanted to filter for English language arts and 8th grade, I can apply. And so I might have some different things. So let's see. Making new friends, writing with the main idea. So it builds that Draw It for me. Same thing, multiple step instructions gives me access to practice with that little scroll bar, just like they would. You have reference media, and then students will have their toolbar. If I like that one, I can click Save, and it's going to add it to my lesson. So I'm going to give you a minute to build one if you would like to build one. If not, you are still welcome to continue to play in that lesson, that sample lesson. There are several examples in there. You could look at a quiz if you would like. It is a math one, so no worries if math's not your thing. We're not taking grades, so it's all good. So the next one that we have is fill in the blanks. Now, fill in the blanks is one of the very first activities that Nearpod ever had in it. And so sometimes it's not as flashy, maybe as the drag and drop or the draw it or something like that. But fill in the blanks is a great example of those tech enhanced text. So when a student has to use that drag and drop, but they have to use it precisely, they need to put that text inside the rest of the text. This is a really good way to practice that. It can be very simple, depends on the text that you add, but it can also be pretty rigorous depending on what you're using. So let's open this one up. So technology enhanced text passages, giving students the opportunity to read on the screen, as well as giving them the opportunity to use that precision when they are dragging and dropping. So students can go through this and they can then drag those things. Now you'll see if I don't put it in exactly, it shoots it off the screen. So students have to get into the habit of being very precise about where they put things. It does not change it if it's right or wrong, but it does if it is not pretty precise when they put it on there. And I'm not reading this, I'm just adding things on there, so it's probably not right. I put in several examples for you so that you can see this with different fonts and different color backgrounds. I'll show you in just a moment how we create this. But you can see it can be single sentences, it can be words and definitions, it can be passages, whatever you need to help students practice not only the reading and the understanding and the comprehension, but also that precision use of their trackpad or their mouse. So how do we create this? I'm going to go to my Nearpod again. I'm going to go to, once again, add content and activities. The fill in the blank is under discussions. Nope, it's under quizzes. There we go. Sorry about that. It's under quizzes and games. So I'll click on fill in the blank, click on add. So fill in the blank looks a little different. Like I said, it's not quite as flashy. It's one of our very original ones. You have to type or paste your text here before you can do anything. Can't do anything with the colors yet. So I have a just a quick little passage that I pulled earlier. I'm going to copy that. I said I was. There we go. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it right here. So then I can choose my colors or my font. So if I want a different background, I know for some students, blue is super helpful. We're practicing something that's a little bit closer to cursive, so I want them to look at cursive. Depends on what you need. Once you have chosen that, you click next. And then you get to choose which words you want to pull out for your word bank. So if I want to pull out a word, I just simply click on that word. If I want to put it back, I close it and it puts it right back into my passage. So I can click on a couple of different words and click done. And then it creates that fill in the blank technology enhanced text passage for me. So I'll give you just a minute to play with that. And then we're going to move on to our very last option. Now, I've only covered 5, so clearly there are more options, different activities. Any activity that you do on Nearpod is going to cover, it's going to use one of these technology skills, at least one. So whether it's scrolling or keyboarding or dragging, any of these are going to be options that students are going to want to become comfortable with. You want students to not be intimidated by the tech that they are using for the standardized test, for it to be just simply as simple as picking up the pencil was. And so this is going to, anything that you do is part of that preparation. So imagine that you're doing the test prep when you're doing your basic math lesson, or when you're doing your science lesson, or when students are working in centers. That test prep is just becoming part of everything that you do. It becomes a process. So let's look at the last one. So the last one is matching pairs. Now, I have to give it a little disclaimer here. So matching pairs, I love using matching pairs with a timer. And we want students to become very comfortable with seeing that timer in the top of their screen counting down, because sometimes they have to take a time test. And for some students, that can be very disconcerting to see that timer. So we want it to be just, again, very comfortable, something that they do. And matching pairs is a great place to do that. The timer, however, does not show in a student-paced lesson. The timer that you can add to all of these activities only shows in a live lesson. So I've been showing you student-paced because we don't want to take the time for everybody to join the live lesson. So just be aware of that. But let me show you how I wrote the instructions. So I'm going to open this one. Matching pairs is a great way to do things like math facts. So this one is the multiplication facts. So you say, okay, match the group of multiplication facts to its product. There is no timer. If I was doing this live, I would not have a timer on the first one. We would just work through this. But the key to this is I'm going to use this same matching pairs, and I'm going to do it again. This time, same matching pairs. Now my instructions say, how many can you do in 2 minutes? And in a live lesson, there would be a timer right up here, and they would have 2 minutes. So imagine you've done this, but you've got some students who are really, really on it. So let's do it one more time. Same matching pairs. All I did was copy it or duplicate it, make it again if you're making your own. How many can you do if the timer is set for 1 minute? And so when you do this live, it counts down. Everybody starts at exactly the same time. So we've added a bit of competition. We've added a bit of fun. We've added a bit of, kind of growth. How can you do this a little bit faster each time? So if you do this at the beginning of the week, and maybe not very many people can do it in 1 minute, but they get some practice during the week, and at the end of the week, you try it again, and you have more students who can do it a little bit faster than what they could before. So this is just one of the ways you could do this. You can use the timer with most of the activities, open-ended question, drag and drop, draw it, all of those can have a timer on it as well, but this is one of the ways that you can do it. Just keep in mind that the timer only works in a live lesson. And so that's why you don't see it here, but I did write it into the instructions so you would kind of see what would happen if the timer was there. So the last thing so let's show one more activity. So add content and activities in this lesson that we're building. Matching pairs is quizzes and a game. It's at the bottom. Click on matching pairs and add. You can create your own. You can click add a pair, and you can enter text on both. You can enter an image on one and text on the other, just to make sure that, however you choose for those pairs to work. Or you can also use some that are pre-built. Still have that filter right up here. Let's filter for math. Let's filter for, let's say, 3rd grade. And let's say match tiled rectangles with expressions. I don't know. There we go. And so I pulled those. I didn't have to create them. They were already there. I click save, and that becomes part of my lesson. So I promised you would have all of these. So this is a live document. Each of these images is linked to that sample lesson. So this will be linked in your notes. You will have this. You can go back and look at those samples if you would like, if you know, trying to remember what are some of the ways that she did that sort of thing. So this will be there for you in your notes as well as in the follow-up materials for you. So just wanted you to know that. It does not say click here because I built this slightly differently. The ones that say click here, I built directly in the Nearpod platform, but they work the same. If you click on the image, it will take you directly to that lesson. So we're coming up on the end of our hour. And so as we are getting finished, oh, sorry about that. So this is a step-by-step on how to add all of those different activities that we talked about. So that if you are somewhat new to Nearpod, then you can go back in here and try and remember, you know, kind of what you saw. Again, this will be linked in your notes, and so you'll be able to find that information. So now, here we go. As we are closing, I want to have an opportunity for you to reflect on the learning. So share, what do you think you're going to do with your lessons this week? How are you going to help your students be more comfortable with tech? And how are you going to help them with the skills? Also, if you're already doing some of this, share that as well. Love to get new ideas, love for teachers to share ideas with one another. So as you're sharing, as you read some of the other ones, click that like button, or I've set it up so that you can add a comment if you would like. So what are you going to use? Oh, love it. Love it. Going to use the Nearpod library. Fabulous place to start. More drag and drop. Can't wait to try it out. Good. Fill in the blank. I haven't used this one before. Marta, you are so right. And that is pretty typical. Again, it's not really flashy, so people don't use it, but it could be very powerful. Virtual school, I use it all of the time. Thank you, Carolyn. We appreciate that. Hopefully you learned something new today, or at least had a spark for a new idea. Teachers bring their lesson plans for next week. We're going to build practice skills for our students. Wonderful idea. Have everybody in the room take it one step further, Katrina. Have them share those with each other. Either use a Google form or put them in the school library or however you do that, but have them share so that everybody walks away with a whole bunch of them. Open-ended questions to check for understanding. Love it. Utilize the draw it. Multimodal responses, yes. All of them need to increase student tech proficiency, yes. And you got to do that at the same time. We don't have time to do it as an extra thing, so we're just going to do it while we're teaching. Yeah, fabulous, fabulous. Use more of the library. Find more lessons for your standards, cool. Turnkey to K-5 teachers, nice. Drama unit, elements of the drama in the fill in the blank. Yes, because I'm pretty sure you have a passage somewhere that you can copy and paste into there. Goofy GIFs get attention. Yes, they do. All right, so I'm going to give you just another minute, and then I've got some resources for you. We're coming up on the top of the hour here, but I want to make sure that you get those resources. Lisa, thank you. Show teachers we can use this tool in person, not just online. So Nearpod was designed as an in-person tool. Never in our wildest dreams was it supposed to be, you know, an online distance learning type of thing. It just turns out that we were really good at that. And it was really helpful for teachers. But yes, we want to make sure that you can take all of that power of having students engaged and hearing from all the students at the same time and bring it into the classroom. So then you really have the best of all worlds. Special ed students for differentiation. Yes. On the iPad, Rosa, love the GIF. Thank you. Drag and drop for science passages that students dread. I love it. Acknowledging that some of it is just not going to be terribly fun. You know, sometimes you got to learn something just because you have to learn it. And so thank you for at least acknowledging and doing your best. Teresa, you are so welcome. Your last PD was long and lame. Well, we try not to do that here, so we appreciate that you notice. All right, so 15 more seconds. If you got one more thing you want to put on there. Word puzzles and dividing words. Thank you. Math Center accountability. Yes. Just learned to use Nearpod last week. Welcome. Glad that you are here. Love that you are using it. If there's any way we can be of help, I'm going to give you some resources. Nice. All right. I do have to move to the next screen. This is fabulous. Love this conversation. I can't wait to go back and look at this and see what all everybody is going to be doing. So here we go. So we do have as you go through this, think about what you're going to do. How are you going to modify the things you're already using to really not only to continue to support the skills, but also to continue to support that tech proficiency? How are students going to practice both of those things? You can find additional information at nearpod.com/resources. That's our teacher resource hub. So you can find all kinds of articles and blogs and additional webinars, all kinds of things there. If you need some more technical assistance, nearpod.com/help can give you some of that real technical stuff. How do I do this specific thing? So that's there as well. And then we have some additional resources that are geared specifically for test prep. So you can click on these different links. Again, this will be in your notes. It will also be in the follow-up that we will have later on. If you enjoyed today and you want to have experience some more learning like this, we are going to have Camp Engage at the end of February. There'll be some more information coming out. If you've not ever been to a Camp Engage, it's like this kind of webinar on steroids. It's like for 3 days and it's all free. It's a great opportunity to get some additional learning. So be watching kind of some information on social media and that sort of thing for that. And I think that is it. So I have a thank you slide, but I'm going to leave it on this slide if you want to click on some of those links for just a moment. I appreciate you being here this evening. I know that Bridget and Erica and Gina and Tracy have been working nonstop in the questions. So I'm going to give them a minute to continue to answer those last few questions. But I want to say thank you so much for being here this evening. We are going to go ahead and call this one done. Oh, Bridget, thank you. Looks like she put the link in the chat for Camp Engage. So if you're interested, go check that out. And then, like I said, you can register and come to those sessions. Lots of great learning is going to be happening the end of February. But thank you so much, everyone. We're going to stay on the line for a few more minutes if there are additional questions. But if you have the information that you need and you need to go on about your day, we are right at the top of the hour. So have a great evening, everyone. Thank you, everyone. There will be a recording. We will be sending out that information. So that will come from GoToWebinar. It'll go to the same email that you use to register for this. So we will make sure that you get that. Somebody asked, would it be possible to send you an email to talk about art lessons? So if you want to reach out about art lessons, we can certainly have a conversation about that. I will put my email in here. I do have somebody on my team who is an art teacher, so she's got some great ideas as well. So reach out to me, and we'll be happy to chat with you. If you did not get the notes, don't worry about that. We will make sure that we get the follow-up to you. And if you have additional questions later on, my information is at the beginning of the slides. I'll put that back up real quick for you. So you can always reach out and we can help that way. I'm also on Twitter, so you can find me at Twitter if you're on there as well. Happy to answer questions. I'm sorry, Melinda, that we didn't meet your needs today. Hopefully we will do better another time. All right, so we are going to go ahead. Looks like we've answered most of the questions, I think. We're still working on a few. All right, looks like we've got most of the question answered. So give it just another minute or so. I don't want to leave anybody without getting their questions answered. So there will be a certificate, there will be the recording, it will be sent to you. Usually takes a couple of hours. We ask that you wait 24 hours because it's coming from GoToWebinar. It's not coming from us. So we want to make sure that we give them plenty of time to send that out. But you will get that, yes. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We appreciate your attendance. If you need anything, reach out, and we look forward to learning together another time. Bye, everybody.